Hey Walking Dead fans, welcome back to the channel. This will be a video on an animated video of the first comic book. So I'll compare a little bit the first comic versus the first episode of The Walking Dead way back, season 1, episode 1. They pretty much, at a certain point, AMC commissioned them to do this animated version of the first comic, which is pretty cool. So check out some of this video, and the link to the full version is in the description below. You'll definitely have to check that out. It's pretty cool. You might want to check it out first and come back here, or just keep watching and I'll let you know a little bit more about some comparisons of the video that they did of the comic versus the first episode of the show. So this first comic, titled Days Gone By, same thing, first episode of the show titled Days Gone By. And you know, in the show we got that opening of Rick running out of gas in his cop car, and he sees the little girl, and all of that happens in that first little bit opening. But it's actually, of course, ahead of time than when the show opens, when Rick wakes up in the hospital, right? So it kind of jumps in time a little bit and shows us Rick running out of gas and meeting the little girl. So what timeline in that is, Rick just left Morgan at the police station. Morgan said he's going to stay back and try to teach Dwayne, his son, how to use a gun and stuff like that, and he'll meet up with him later. And Rick is going to go into the city and try to find Lori and Carl. So Rick is on his way to the city. He runs out of gas. He doesn't find any. Of course, he finds a horse, and that's how he arrives into the city. But on the timeline, the very first thing we see in the TV show, we actually see after he left Morgan, after he left the police station. He's already waken up at the hospital, met Morgan, all of that happened, went to the police station. He got his car and his stuff. They took a shower, you know, all that stuff, guns. And, you know, he ran out of gas. And we open with that.
This is not good.
Well, the comic simply opened with the firefight between Shane and Rick and the bad guy. And that was a little different. The TV show, of course, had the car, had the 3 bad guys. Rick actually got shot twice, once in his vest, and then once when he turned around, it actually got him under the arm, kind of down on his side where it didn't have vest coverage. But in comics, you know, things are explained in frames. One frame has to tell a really huge story to the reader, to the person looking at the comic. Sometimes it's with a text bubble, and sometimes there's no, you know, text at all. It may be a description there, but sometimes it's just the action explains the story in the comic, and there's just a frame.
I ain't going back. I'll die first.
But in the TV show, of course, just take the wreck for an example, the opening, it showed Shane and Rick eating and getting the call that there's a bad guy car chase going on. They need to go at this point. They lay out the spikes. You know, they get behind their cars. Here comes the car. It wrecks. They have the shootout. It's much, much more played out. It has to be.
Cover me.
But of course, eventually Rick does wake up in the hospital, and there are a few little differences here. He does wake up. He sees things as he walks through the halls. The gurney isn't up against the door like it was in the show, Shane pushing it up against the door. The whole don't open dead inside. He does go into the cafeteria area where someone has barricaded some walkers, of course, behind the doors. And he lets them out, and they kind of chase him away, but the words aren't written on the doors. And from the show, that aspect became very iconic. And as you'll see him walking out, it says Harrison Memorial Hospital. I think this is all happening in Kentucky as far as Rick, and he heads to Atlanta from there in the comic. In the show, he's already near Atlanta, right outside of Atlanta. And then in the comic, we get the bicycle girl. That happened as well as in the show. You know, Frank Darabont, the first director, showrunner, producer guy that brought The Walking Dead to the screen from the comic back in the beginning, he put the bicycle girl in there. He really made it really so close to the comic, but of course he had to play everything out even more so. And I thought he did a really great job. I think that first episode of The Walking Dead is possibly the best episode ever. It's such a standalone little film. One of the best adapted comic to screen things that I've seen ever. And then right at the end of the comic, Rick does go into his house. He sees some photos on the wall of the family, Lori and Carl and him, and he's just really distraught. Like, damn, I woke up to the end of the world. But the end of the first comic is when he gets hit with the shovel, and it's to be continued. So we keep going in the show. Even in the first episode, we keep going a little bit, you know, all the way into Atlanta. The end of that first episode is Rick in the tank. So it was taken farther in the show up to that point. But I just thought the back and forth between the comic and the show, it's just pretty much Frank Darabont nailed it and thought he did a great job. And he did start The Walking Dead on TV, which, you know, for a while was the biggest show in the world. So kudos to Robert Kirkman, Frank Darabont, and AMC initially for picking it up where some others turned it away. But let me know your thoughts on, you know, first episode, when it started, how it went, just anything Walking Dead, first season, the comic, this little comic video that they did, reconstruction of the comic into a motion comic, as they call it. Let me know your thoughts below, and as in this frame right here, to be continued. I think the whole Walking Dead universe is to be continued for a long, long time, the way it's sounding, the way it's looking. We've got the new series coming out 2020. We've got the first Rick movie going to come out 2020. We still got Fear. We still got Walking Dead. It's renewed for season 11. Fear season 6 is on the go. So, you know, it's just going to be a full year of The Walking Dead coming 2020. Looking forward to it. Like I said, say hello or let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more dead stuff.